All right, let's get straight to our strategist. Joining me now is Leslie Sanchez. She's a Republican strategist. She is joining me from Texas, I believe you are, in Leslie, not here in our beautiful studios at CBSN, but we do have Liz Smith, Democratic strategist, who is joining us here in the studio. All right, Leslie, in just the last 15-20 minutes, this discussion, this news has gone from what the Republicans and Donald Trump have been saying is something akin to Watergate, the grave miscarriage of justice, criminal and illegal conduct that threatens the security of the United States of America. That is a statement from Donald Trump, to now, which we point out, and we have been pointing out, that in Director Comey's letter, he says this investigation was in connection to an unrelated case, something about Anthony Weiner. What do you make of it?
Well, what's undisputable is that Comey has come out and said in the past that she has been extremely careless with classified information as it relates to her private server. We know that. There was not enough for criminal charges to be pressed against her, but that's undisputable. And what he's talking about there, what is clear, is that he's saying there's enough to look at additional emails, regardless of where they are. The question is going to come back to poor judgment. And the number one issue as it relates to Hillary Clinton's unfavorabilities is that she's not trustworthy, that her administration could potentially reek of corruption. So I'm not going to justify, oh, Watergate, this and that, but I will tell you I was on the phone when this broke with some pollsters who said we're not going to really know the effect of this till next week unless it's some sort of gross negligence. But what is interesting is they don't believe this would end. If Hillary Clinton did win the presidency, they think this is going to be an ongoing drumbeat like Watergate for many years to come.
All right. Liz, yes, the perception that Hillary Clinton is not transparent, that she's not accountable to the American people, that the use and the setting up of this email server may, according to her critics, have put national security on the line. That is still the message here. That is still what a lot of people say makes her unqualified to be president of the United States. But now this information coming out, is this a tool that the Republicans will be able to use 11 days ahead of the election? Certainly. It allows them to, it gives them a fresh line of argument, and it allows them to kind of revive it out there on the campaign trail. And what's interesting to watch is the down ballot Republicans and how they're using it in Senate races. Already we've seen Marco Rubio come out with a very strong statement on this. I think it was maybe a little bit of an overreach, but Republican candidates are going to try to get Democratic candidates on the defensive on this and make them answer for it. But again, as Jerry Connolly said, we don't know what's in these emails. We really don't even know any of the specifics of this. So it's hard to draw any big conclusions from this right now. All right, Leslie, let me ask you this. In the hours after this news broke, we had Republican after Republican. We had Donald Trump's one of his advisors, A.J. Delgado, on the line here with us. And they talked about how they finally believe that Director Comey and the FBI is doing the right thing. Donald Trump talked about righting the ship. In the days after Director Comey made the recommendation to not seek prosecution of Hillary Clinton, Ted Cruz said this: Director Comey's announcement this week only seems to confirm those concerns. I'm hopeful we'll have a full, complete transparency. I'm sorry to say I and other observers had long predicted that the decision whether to proceed against Hillary Clinton would be driven in this administration by partisan political factors rather than an objective assessment about whether whether her conduct violated criminal statutes. So back then, the Republicans were saying Comey is doing the wrong thing here. It was a mistake. We've even heard that from Republicans today. Back then, that was a mistake. Today, it's a great thing that they're doing. But now, if the news is that, in fact, it has to do with Anthony Weiner and this investigation into his alleged sexting, I wonder then, do Republicans then jump back on that old bandwagon and say, well, yeah, you know what, Comey should be doing a better job?
You know, it's really hard to make that case, especially when I think the director's worked very hard to to not look political in this case. The grumblings were coming from FBI, as we saw in some investigative reporting just in the last couple of weeks, some other FBI agents who were very close to this case who had these ties and had certain grumblings and had different recommendations. Then the FBI takes the recommendations, they take them to the AG. It was all political, and there was a suspicion that the true light of more criminality, criminal charges, was not pursued because she was the Democratic nominee. This does not erase that. I thought an interesting thing that happened in your previous interview when the congressman said, was insinuating she's above reproach. Nobody is above reproach. This doesn't end. I think the question now becomes, how does this play out? Yes, it's 11 days, but this will not end. It doesn't matter if it's Anthony Weiner. It matters what was Hillary Clinton's intent. Did she again, not take care of classified information? And what was the relationship with her chief of staff? It's going to ask more questions, more suspicion. And so I think regardless, it's going to depend on what side of the aisle you're on. But I think Comey's really kind of going down the middle on this one. He's not going to make anybody happy.
Yeah, and I mean, and Leslie makes a good point, which is that regardless of what this investigation is about today, or what aspect of this investigation is, there are still many people who think that that in just doing that, it proved that the Clintons operate by their own set of rules, and that they do things. I mean, in just the WikiLeaks, which we haven't talked about in 4 hours, we haven't talked about WikiLeaks, Leslie. But one of the things that was surprising to me earlier this morning was in that WikiLeaks investigation and those emails that are being released that some of our own staffers were caught off guard by the fact that she still had the server, because there was an exchange which they said, we've spoken to her and she says it's taken care of, and yet it hadn't been taken care of.
No, I mean, your point, I don't think that's a point anybody, Republican or Democrat, wants to defend. You want to exercise good judgment. I think the part, again, the pall over the whole election is, would this continue? Are these, there's not going to be a free pass by the FBI or the AG January 2017. This is going to continue. These are very serious issues. Yes, it could be just more, but it is a question of judgment on classification on her private server. And here we go again. So that's why I'm saying there's going to be much more to this. And the levity, we really can't tell yet. Will it make an impact? It's hard to say.
And, and that's the thing, to Leslie's point about here we go again. There is this feeling that wherever the Clintons go, drama follows. And it really does feed into that narrative, and it's not helpful to them. And then there is also the depressing reality that Leslie pointed out, and others have pointed out in recent days, that the Republicans are planning, on day one, to start launching investigations into Hillary Clinton on her emails, on the foundation, on this, on that. And no one wants that. That's going to, no one wants a replay of the inaction from the 1990s. So it's not great news for Democrats, but I think Republicans do have to be careful here about not overplaying their hand, because voters don't want a government that doesn't completely work and that shuts down over, tired old investigations into emails.
Liz,
I don't know if we had time, but Liz makes a very good point, especially when she's talking about the Clintons. And already, just in conversations I was having today with some folks in the administration that had worked, back in the 90s, they were like, oh gosh, it's Janet Reno all over again. Like the next question of the shoe to drop is, says, oh my gosh, Hillary Clinton wins. She's going to immediately try to put in her own attorney general. She's going to immediately try to circumvent all of these investigations. You're going to have Republican trying to stop that effort. I mean, it really is a lot of things people just not ready to go through when they want to talk about the economy.
And you referenced Janet Reno, the former attorney general under Bill Clinton when he was president. But I wonder, Leslie, her people have been saying that during her time as a senator, and even if you look back at Bill Clinton's presidency, there was perhaps an easier going of working across the aisle with members of the Republican Party. Certainly much more so, some would say, than Barack Obama has had over the last 8 years. Does that at all play into it? I mean, this is an ugly campaign. There's a lot going back and forth between the two camps. But once she's in, do you think that she'd be able to maintain that ability to work across the aisle, or that Republicans would come across the aisle to work with her?
There's always going to be a bipartisan spirit in a new administration. We accept the new president, Republican or Democrat. That is the good intent that everyone starts with. But it's going to be in the details when you get into immigration reform, when you get into some of these issues. It was not until the end of the second term of the Clinton administration that they had the balanced budget amendment with former Speaker Newt Gingrich, and they were able to come up with a lot of successes, but that had to do with a Republican takeover of the Congress, the first time in 40 years. So it takes political pressure for the administration and the House, particularly the legislature, to work together.
Liz, given that the reporting right now, and this could change, but right now it appears, and CBS News is confirming that this investigation, which Director Comey calls an unrelated case, but into Hillary Clinton's email server, has to do with Anthony Weiner and to a lesser extent his wife Huma Abedin. Just for our viewers to understand, I mean, we know what imploded his political career, but recently there have been new allegations. What are those?
That he was sending sexually inappropriate messages to an underage girls. So that's what the speculation is, that this is an investigation related to that. But, you know, if that's, I don't think that that's going to have much bearing or much influence on this race. I think people are focused on Hillary Clinton, not her staff or her staff's husband.
Okay, so let me just read. We just got a statement in from John Podesta. John Podesta is the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton. Here's what it says, and we're just getting this, so I'm going to read it for our viewers. Upon completing this investigation more than 3 months ago, FBI Director Comey declared no reasonable prosecutor would move forward with a case like this and added that it was not even a close call. In the months since, Donald Trump and his Republican allies have been baselessly second-guessing the FBI in both public and private, browbeating the career officials there to revisit their conclusion in a desperate attempt to harm Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. FBI Director Comey should immediately provide the American public more information than is contained in the letter he sent to 8 Republican committee chairmen. Already, we have seen characterizations that the FBI is reopening an investigation, but Comey's words do not match that characterization. Director Comey's letter refers to emails that have come to light in an unrelated case, but we have no idea what those emails are, and the director himself notes that they may not even be significant. It is extraordinary that we would see something like this just 11 days out from a presidential election. The director owes it to the American people to immediately provide the full details of what he is now examining. We are confident that this will not produce any conclusions different from the one the FBI reached in July. Liz, I'll ask you, and I kind of know what you're going to say, but I also will ask the same question to Leslie. Is this political, what Director Comey did today?
I mean, I'm not going to ascribe any motives to what Director Comey did today. I do think it was a little bit irresponsible, and I agree with John Podesta that Director Comey does need to clarify what he meant by that letter, because it's clearly thrown us all into a state of mass confusion. And you know, we're 11 days from an election. We need a little bit more clarity here. And you know, when you have Donald Trump out there saying this is the next coming of Watergate, it's really irresponsible for Director Comey to kind of leave it in this, you know, in-between space where no one has any idea what's going on.
Leslie?
We can't speak for Donald Trump or Director Comey, but we can say no one is above reproach when it comes to this type of issue in this long ongoing investigation. If anything, we should be taking the side of the American people, that he put this information out there. It was kind of a vague, yes, vague, because there wasn't more into that. But this is not a process that is going to be rushed. This is a process that needs to be fair. So both can speculate. I think there's massive damage control. You can hear it in Podesta's response. Because they cannot say with certainty, like they can't confirm the WikiLeaks, that there is nothing, that there's no, where there's smoke, there's no fire.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a good point, Liz, which is that you can't come out too harshly against this, because we've got 11 more days to go, and every day there are new releases from WikiLeaks that do damage to her campaign, that chip away at her message. And so even though that email, that statement from Podesta is strongly worded, it doesn't go into specifics. It doesn't even say what we're reporting right now, which is this may have to do with Anthony Weiner, because tomorrow it could be something completely different.
Right. Well, again, because we don't really know what's going on. And part of that is due to the very vague letter that Director Comey sent. And John Podesta raises a great point. You know, everyone keeps calling for transparency from Hillary Clinton. Let's see some transparency from the FBI, and let's get more clarification. Because again, we're 11 days away from picking the next leader of the free world. So this has real world implications, and the more information we can get, the better, so that people do not draw very irresponsible conclusions from this.
Leslie, I think a lot of people, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, would agree that these are two damaged candidates. These are two controversial candidates here running for the presidency of the United States. The question, I guess, is it come down to, and you guys are strategists, does it come down to who do you who do you hate less or who do you like more? I mean, because I'm just curious. Like, there are a lot of controversies swirling around Donald Trump. There are numerous controversies swirling around Hillary Clinton. They're in these battleground states today, trying to take their message to those voters. Donald Trump's in New Hampshire. She's in Iowa. I wonder. I mean, when you hear stuff like this, does it make it easy for the voters to pick who they want to be the next president?
It doesn't. If anything, it frustrates the voters. It upsets the voters. They're very sad. I mean, you cannot deny, in all the focus groups I've been in, people are just upset. Anger, they're going into the 5 stages of grief here. Everybody's really experiencing many stages right now. And this compounds on top of that, because either candidate will ascend into the White House with the highest negatives, biggest unfavorables in modern history. And that's an extremely difficult position to legislate from. It's really difficult to think you're going to have enough of political capital to go in and get some of the major issues that are concerning voters right now. So that's the compounding effect of this. And again, it does speak to the issue. One, people don't like the personality, the style, there's so many things about Trump. I don't have all day anything about Trump, right? You know, it's just the list, a pig, racist, you know, you can just go on and on and on. But with Hillary Clinton, it gets very serious in a different way, because she knows better. And it always feels like they operate on a set of rules that's not like anybody else's. And that's why, that's the contrast here. And that's something people are really struggling with.
Leslie raised a great point, which is that, you know, Donald Trump supporters know that he's not a politician. He says that all the time on the campaign trail. They know that he talks bluntly. They know that he says things that people in polite company would not repeat, but they have accepted that. The criticism for Hillary,
they also know that he gropes women without, or brags about groping women without their consent.
And they've accepted that. His base of supporters say, look, what we would get with Hillary Clinton is somebody who would endanger national security, somebody who would put the lives of my family, the lives of our military at risk here. I wonder, even if this turns out that this is something to do with Anthony Weiner, just the idea of corruption, of transparency, accountability, does that dog her? Does that tighten the race in places that we were looking at a campaign map earlier this morning and going, oh, there's some states that were red that may be purple now. Does that move the needle at all?
You know, I don't see it moving the needle that much, because I think a lot of this is just baked in the cake. We've been reading about these emails nonstop for, what, 18 months? So you'd have to be hiding under a rock not to know all about this. And in this particular instance, there's no allegation of wrongdoing on her part. So I'm not sure that this adds much to the narrative. But of course, it's not helpful for this to be in the news and dominating the headlines right now, this close to the election.
Leslie, Donald Trump has promised to provide $100 million to his campaign. The FEC filings show that he hasn't done that, and that he's probably done something in the area of $33,000 this month alone. He has said that he's going to write a $10 million check today. The question, I guess, is now with this news, with this back in the headlines, is this an opportunity for him to say, you know what, I better pony up that $40 million to provide that $100 million, because this is something that we can utilize to help us maybe eke out a victory here?
Sure. I mean, sure. But more importantly, it's a really good effort from political purposes. It's going to contribute the small donations. This is the kind of stuff, the $3, the $5, the $20, the $200, it really does start to add up, because people feel overwhelmingly, especially some of his donors on the right or Republican donors on the right, that there's something not right here. That this is exactly, we could not sit here and say, in fairness, it's okay to be under an FBI investigation. How is that this is the contrast that we're having? And they fear for what it means long term, not just because they already perhaps don't care. And independents here, they don't care, or no, they don't like either candidate. But what are the ramifications a year from now? 2 years from now. So it transcends into governance, which is really, I think, where the American electorate is looking to get.
All right, ladies, please stand by. We are going to take a quick break.